from my story, you have experienced some empathy towards me. When you, when you can relate the other's feeling, when you can understand others, in other words, that is called empathy, which is compassion, understanding others. So I understood, I'm not a scientist or doctor, but I understood, because I'm open to learn, and I'm open for that. So scientifically, they link these empathy feelings with a hormone called oxytocin. Oxytocin is released when we became close to other human beings. That's a good thing. It's one of the um, happy hormones. And the other happy hormones they talked about is serotonin, is released when we act in a way that benefits others. When you feel you are um, you are of use, you are meaningful, your life is meaningful, you can do something for others, you are recognized, you have a good feeling, feeling good for doing good things. So the question is whether we get these hormones because we have these inequalities, we have happiness and we have these positive emotions, so we have the hormones, or the other way around. That's that would take a long discussions. But they're nonetheless, they're connected. There's connection. So let's go back to the empathy hormone, oxytocin, which is in a more um, Buddhist word is compassion, right? Empathy is compassion. The early Buddhist term for this is anukampa. Okay, anukampa. Kampa means moving, right? One that moves like earthquake. It's a quake. Anu, in this case, is after somebody or towards after. So anukampa is you are moved by others' feeling. So that's anukampa. And we later also found a lot of, especially in Vajrayana Buddhism, we find the word karuna, which is more better known for compassion, word compassion. Um, so let's think about what are the most important human qualities. Kindness is the first word probably comes to our mind. Kindness can manifest in many different forms and ways. From kindness, we will probably have a consideration. Even we made some harsh decisions, maybe we can consider for certain situations, for that person. After understanding that situation of that person, then we change. And that's coming from the kindness and understanding of other situation. Then your perception towards this person is now changed. From kindness, you may have the act of generosity, you give things to others. So that consideration is the oxytocin, in my view. I mean, oxytocin, in my view. Because you understand others' situations, and then now you change your view towards this. So you understand, you feel closer, you can relate to it. So that's the thing. And then from kindness, we can practice, we get the feeling of generosity in many forms and ways. Sometimes we give our time, sometimes we give our knowledge, sometimes we give good words to others, sometimes we give to others, we give encouragement, anyway, we make them feel good. So there's a, I don't want to go into detail about this, but there's a difference between uh, right and wrong, true and not true. Sometimes they can overlap. It may not be the truth, but it is the right thing to do. Ethically, morally speaking, there are many things like that. Um, or it's a, so true or not, right or not, right or wrong, it's a beneficial or not. That's the other consideration. So with the wisdom and learning, we can slowly make decisions based on considering all these things. So going back to generosity, we people give uh, uh, materials, food, money, um, knowledge. You know, anyway, when you give something, that is practice of generosity. So it's connected with the serotonin. You feel good. Often I met people who says that, and it's proven by some studies as well. I've read that. It says when you buy something for yourself, you may feel happy for a short while, but not really satisfied for a longer time. But when you do something for others, then you feel much happier. Then you have uh, much better experience for a longer time. The feeling of good. Um, so where do we get that compassion, and did we develop, did we learn it? Did we have it from the beginning? Who gave it to us, right? Well, we're born with compassion. It's with each and every one of you. You have it right now. And every culture, every religion talks about the need and importance of the compassion. In fact, lack of empathy, lack of empathy for others is considered as a mental disorder, interestingly. So completely lack of, if you show your completely lack of compassion or empathy, then now medically they consider that as a disorder, an illness. You know, it's called narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. So compassion is not a luxury, it's something needed to be a person. And if you can develop that, that's great, which we are trying to do here. So, but the task in front of us is to help it to grow, to nurture it. But how? Buddha not only talked about how important and how great it is, he also talked about how to develop the compassion as well as the wisdom. So that's why there are hundreds of books that contain Buddha's teachings, not just 1 or 2 books or 10 books, because he had to explain it. So, so the followers, one who practice, can utterly improve their lives, this lives or lives, and beyond. So as I said, teachings of Buddha amounts to hundreds of books, and this is not including the treatises and commentaries written by his followers. I'm talking about words of Buddha alone. You might, like many others, think that I want to practice to improve my life or free myself from sufferings or to be enlightened. People have different expectations. Or you might want to know what is the philosophy and logic behind the Buddha's teachings. As an answer to these demands, over the time, I put together a series of teachings covering all the major subjects of Buddhist teachings. But at the same time, something that is easier to understand for average people, I put together and I name it as Discovering the Dharma. And this talk that you are having right now is part of that. And we'll be continuing this in the coming few days. Okay, so we talked about compassion is born with us, but we should grow it. And the question now is how? Even though we have these qualities, the compassion, the kindness, and there are other qualities that I want to talk about as well. We don't have them working all the time. They are dormant unless we come across certain conditions that trigger it to be active. It is dormant. So we have moments of active compassion and kindness. So we need to grab those moments of our kindness, which is very rare, like the lightnings in the darkness, and develop that into a spontaneous quality through practice, after practice, after practice. And practice methods are manifold. There are many different ways to practice. Recitations, for example, are also part of the practice not because you are reciting it, but because those words are compacted with teachings that guide you through certain positive thoughts. If you think about the words, the meanings of those words. So please remember to think the meanings of the words every time you recite. Let's do one here. The recitation of 4 immeasurables. Let's do the 4 immeasurable recitations right now, thinking the meaning of every words.
May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the root of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the root of suffering. May they not be separated from the great happiness devoid of suffering. May they dwell in the great equanimity, free from passion, aggression, and prejudice.
Thank you. See how much more meaningful it is when you think nothing but the meaning of the words. And sometimes traditionally you will, they will suggest you to recite 3 times some of the important parts you need to recite, not just one time, but 3 times. We're doing one time here, but you'll find places where they ask you to recite 3 times. That's because maybe during the first time, maybe we are not really connected with those meanings. We are lost, or we're trying to find the words. And second time, we kind of understood and kind of followed, but not totally, right? And then third time, you really get it. You really, so that sometimes you can do more. Um, so just like the kindness, the other very important quality, human quality, the important quality, I think, is appreciation, especially from Buddhist point of view. I think is the appreciation, um, knowing and being happy with the qualities that you have, recognizing the qualities that you have. And if you look into yourself and look for the good qualities that you have, usually they are uh, very strongly rooted in the very heart of your mind. Uh, so the more you look into these qualities, the more appreciation you will get. And that appreciation, the recognition and knowing that you have these qualities, you build confidence as a result of that. Optimism, courage, everything will come. Everything, all these good qualities will fall together. In our coming days, we will also talk about a very important subject of Buddhism known as the Buddha nature. Uh, that is, you know, understanding that we have that quality is also appreciation. You're appreciating that you have such quality. And with so when you look things closely and without being biased, when you look at things, you start to learn how to be mindfulness. And this is also part of the quality, another quality. The mindfulness will solve so many problems. There are several problems, several major problems um, that we often face. One of them is the problem that you keep yourself, right? Of course, negative things, if you keep within yourself, is really bad. It can, um, over the time, can really harm oneself. So it's very important that not to focus on the negative things all the time. It's important to know what are the problems so you know you can look for the solutions, but not really bug down on those things. The moment you see problem, you need to put your energy into the solutions. What are the solutions for these problems? So that's a problem within oneself. Then the second one comes, um, and then you should not, I'm not saying that you should ignore it. You should really take care of it to lessen those problems and remove those problems. But then there's another problem that is in between people, oneself and others, with your family members, with your close friends, with your colleagues, right? And normally, whoever is important with you, whoever, people who care for you, they're the one that you probably will be communicating the most, and you have stronger feeling towards them. So most of our problems, imagine, if you don't have communication problem with anyone in the world, how much less problems we might have, right? So communication is a big part and is the one that creates lots of negative karma. It's a big gate for creating negative karma or positive karma. But with the mindfulness, we can help a lot. Uh, we can filter, basically, we can filter first so we don't harm others as much. But at the same time, we need to know that there's no way that you never harm others. It happens. You cannot make everybody happy. Yeah. And then patience. With those qualities I mentioned earlier, the practice of patience, it's easier. Now I'll go forward. Now, all these qualities that I mentioned earlier are mental factors, which means it's a product of our mind. Mental factor means it is produced by our mind. It's a product of our mind. And the happiness, for example, if you now look carefully, if you observe carefully, look closely, you will know how fragile they are, how fragilely appear and disappear, how they are completely directed by outer conditions. For example, we depend on other people's compliments, to feel happy, for example. Or we depend on some achievements, some, success in our projects and so on to feel good and happy. And yet at the same time, we don't have really control about what people say. We don't really have control about the situations. If we really have to depend on all these situations to be happy and so on, it is very difficult to be happy most of the time. you know so so to be successful in these positive emotions, we have to have a very dependable cooperating mind, because they are the product of mind. So we need to work with the source of those mental factors. So we need a mind that cooperates with our wish, a mind that is dependable, a mind that can make decision of its own without being distracted by external things. So that is our goal. We have to make our mind stronger. We have to make our mind more independent, so they are not enslaved by external um, sights and sounds, flavor and fragrance and so on. So that's the goal of the practice for now. Um, Now the question is, can we really achieve that? Yes, only by, but only through nurturing the conscious mind, the mind that we have right now, working with that, we can do that. How do we do that? We have to, we cannot fight with it. We have to gently work gently. We have to love. We have to take care of it. We have to lead it. We have to let it rest. And sometimes we have to let it be free while watching how it's acting, you know, like taking care of a child. You have many different phases, right? Mother take care of child at a different phases. Um, First, very closely, very tenderly, they hold it, they hold the child, I mean, and over the time, slowly, um, they let it play, but you're very closely watching it. And then when it becomes stronger and can protect itself better, and they'll give more freedom to play. Yeah. Um, so you're guarding it, you're watching it, but at the same time giving freedom to the mind. You know, you don't want to control your mind all the time. So there's a different phases of the practice. So okay, and that dealing with the mind in different ways, um, using right method for the right time, is the meditation. When you work with your mind to make it clear, stable, calm, um, when you watch your mind as it plays out in different ways, that is the practice. That is a practice related with meditation. So now when we talk about meditation, um, we need to know something about use of the words. Use of the words. Figure of speech, right? I think it's a figure of speech. Um, and I think in Greek it's called pars pro toto, which means the part for the whole, and totum pro parte, which means the whole for the part. So sometimes if I say, this is a Buddhist example. Okay, let's say I have a candle in front of me right now, and I wasn't careful. So I move, and part of this is burnt. So when I tell my people around me, and ask for help, I might say, "Oh, my clothes is burnt. I need help. I need some water," right? But in reality, it's only a part, very small piece of the cloth, whole cloth, is burnt. So sometimes you use part for the whole. Technically, is not right, but that is the usage. That's how we speak. And for example, you can say, um, the king or the president arrived last year in this town. You're, what you're saying is only one person. The king arrived or the president arrived, right? But king or president never come by oneself to visit a town. They come with other people, guards and you know, lots of supporters and protectors and drivers and so on, secretaries. So here, even though everybody comes, lots of people come, you just call one name. In this case, even though only one is burned, one part is burned, you call the whole thing. So language is like that. The reason why I went through this detail is I think the word meditation is something like that. Uh, but in not in the form of part and whole, but in the form of effort and effect, or cause and effect, right? You put effort and you get effect, the result. The real meditation is a state of mind, is a result. What we are doing, what we call we're meditating, we have meditation class, those are the efforts to get that real meditation. So they're actually not, technically they're not. Literally, they are not meditation. Figuratively, they are. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say. So therefore, the methods of meditations are something that will change over the time, and you should be able to get rid of some of them if your teacher asks you to, or maybe you will know you need, you have to go forward. Uh, so my point here is that you don't want to caught up too much in the types and tools of meditation. But at the same time, I'm not saying that these types, different types and the tools or methods and steps of meditation are not important. They are important. Now, the, a big part of a fruitful, successful meditation comes from, it's a very, very big part. And if you have that, you should know that you actually pass a big test. And that is your own interest and your resolve. Once you enter the path, it's sooner or later you're going to get somewhere forward, because it's a one way. But entering into the gate or the path is almost half of the difficulties, half of the success. So I think we all should be happy, because without interest, we won't be listening, you know, teachings related to meditation. The other big part then is getting right instructions and putting them into practice. So this is the other part. The first, I probably, I'm tempted to say like, I, I cannot really give a number on them, but like half of the difficulty is getting karmic connection to enter into the path. So you have already half of the success. Now the other half is what I just said. It's getting right instructions and practice them. What you are receiving from here on is the instruction for meditation from here on right now, direct. Uh, the first is our mental attitude. Okay, in order to train yourself to expand your mental capacity to the way, all the way to the enlightenment, we need to know. You need to know yourself by by pacifying the mind, experiencing and familiarizing the quality of the mind is important. There's several steps I told you there. Pacifying the mind, experiencing and familiarizing with the quality of the mind. First you pacify, and then you experience some qualities of meditation, but it disappears, right? You don't necessarily want to look for that old experience again. You just continue without much expectations. All you want is you just look at the mind, the source, the center of the mind. And then you start to become familiar with that, familiar with your, that knowing quality. That is instructions on doing meditation. All along, you got to let your compassion towards all the, you have to have compassion. That's so important. Without compassion, if you think that I got a technique, I got a tools, a method to, to work with my mind, so I'll be very smart, I can understand others' mind, um, I can have clairvoyance. You can think all those things, you might get some benefits, but not very useful. It can maybe even harm you with your power. So compassion is a must. And if you have compassion, if you develop simultaneously while you meditate compassion, then it's very, it could be very surprising to you that how your meditation progress. And if you don't have expectations of progress, you may have even more progress. You won't be able to tell, you cannot judge when you can have progress and when you cannot have progress. It's very random because we don't know when cause and effects are coming together. So when they come together, one of the big thing is compassion, then it take place. So compassion towards all is important. Trust in teacher, we have to let it flow freely. We have to let it flow freely. I will talk more about this in the coming days because we have particular subject on that, teacher-students relationship. Uh, but here I'm saying that compassion towards all is so important, and trust in teacher is so important to let it flow. And we need to, as I said earlier, focus on the positives. And after that, we need to have confidence in our ability. If we put the conditions together, If we put effort, we'll be able to do it. So we have to trust in that. Uh, when we say diligence, it's not an excitement. It's a regular uh, effort, constant effort, without too much expectations. Because expectations can kill your diligence. Because you're always wanting to see some progress, and that can actually go against your progress. So no expectations, not much expectations, but continuous effort, compassion, and trust. These are really important part of the meditation. Success of meditation is not just about having a cushion and sitting on it. You need these other elements. So those are the mental attitudes that we have to have in meditation. Then comes the object. What kind of object can we use for the meditation? One of the very common and very accessible is the breath count meditation or resting meditation. Uh, we will do that very quickly today. And when you do that, you breathe in normal pace. We tend to breathe very slowly, but try to breathe in normal pace. Uh, we're going to make our mind inseparable with objects. When you visualize or when you focus on something, breath in this case, or some people in some meditation, you focus on circles or dots. Um, you have a huge dot at the beginning, and then you slowly and slowly reduce that size into really small dot. Um, just an example, right? So there are so many different kinds of objects of meditations. And then we focus first on the object, and then we remain there. And when the mind is distracted by any objects of senses, then we bring them back again. Right? So that's the practice. Physical posture is the next thing I want to talk about. Find a place, find a place where you don't have to worry about your safety. I expect you have that already, right? But not only safety, also disturbances to your meditation. One example is cell phone, right? Or computer with notifications. Cell phone is particularly very interesting because I was told that even you turn it off completely, if you put it right in front of you where you can see it, it can distract you. So it's maybe a good idea to turn off and also put away in a bag or somewhere you don't see. Then the next thing is the regardless of you are sitting on a floor cushion on a floor or on a chair, make sure that your hips are slightly higher than your knees so that you can support your body better. And now this is about physical posture. Now with palms on your knees, okay, or in equipoise posture, slightly touching your thumbs, the tip of thumbs to each other. And now tuck in your chin slightly and make sure that your shoulders are completely relaxed. Start with slightly open eyes, looking downwards in about maybe 45 degrees in front of you. But within first few minutes, find out if you are leaning towards more drowsy mind or towards more agitated mind, which means drowsy means you get a sense of falling asleep, your mind becomes a little bit drowsy. Or agitated mind means you have so much thoughts, so much ideas, so much plan, so much memory, so much discussions. If that's happening, then your mind is agitated. So depending on this, you will be the judge for yourself. If it's look like going to be drowsy, then keep opening your eyes, maybe even gazing further away in distance, but not staring, because you cannot last long if you stare. If it's more of an agitated mind, then you can close your eyes. Either way, you need to place your mind on the intended object of meditation. Mind is always on certain objects, even when you're not meditating. But here we are assigning an object for the meditation. And we want mind to focus just on that object, not others. So you chose, you have to choose an object, especially at the beginning, um, object of the meditation, such as breath. Then all other objects are something that you don't want to think about. You just have to be with that single object. Now, one very important skill here is that you don't want to put efforts to stop the other objects. Because in order to stop, you create, right? So even it comes in your mind without really creating, you think you're not creating them, but subconsciously you are, and that's okay. Your task is to focus, how to focus on the object that is assigned to you. Our thinking mind cannot work many things at the same time without jumping one to another. So if you really can focus on one thing, you're not distracted. So you don't have to push away those negative objects. All you have to do is very honestly and very, just focus on one thing, that object. Then you will be able to get rid of the others. And if you are not, then you just come back. You just bring back your focus to the object again. So now let us recite the following verse. As we start this pacifying and abiding meditation known as Shamatha. Uh, the verse from is an excerpt from a text called Mahamudra of True Meaning. And remember to think of the meaning as we recite them. And immediately after that, we will enter into breath counting meditation. And so at the beginning, you just hold a deep breath and release completely. Okay, completely release. Deep breath, and then completely release. One time, right? And then after that, you don't have to do that deep. You just do more normal. But but you count. When do you count? Is when you exhale. When you exhale, count, right? And it is taught traditionally that we need to visualize, we need to think of a clear blue light coming out of our core of the body. And as you breathe out, you always breathe in and out from your mouth, from your nose, in and out. So the extent, if you can, but if you feel that, I think you can. Um, the inhaling extremity of the light is your navel. The exhaling extremity of your breath, I mean the extremity of the light is your hand, length of your hand. Your nose is in between. So you exhale, goes this far, pay special attention to the end of that light, and then goes in as you inhale and touch all the way down to the navel, and then exhale and inhale. So that's breath meditation. And at the same time, count. As you exhale, count. Up to 21 times. Then when you reach 21 times, and then you can rest. And sometimes you need to do meditation resting, not always counting. You count for a certain time, you might feel that you need to rest and rest. And then maybe you may need, otherwise your mind may distract again or fall asleep. So you start counting again. But that's the meditation. So let's now focus on let's do the recitation.
The waves of gross and subtle thoughts having spontaneously subsided, the river of unwavering mind naturally abides, free from the stains of dullness, sluggishness, and conceptualization. May we be stable in the unmoving ocean of Shamatha.
Remember now the body posture that we learned earlier. The breath practice with a long breath and normal pace breath. The body posture, make sure you're doing it right. Try to sense, try to figure out your state of mind right now. What is the chance of falling asleep in next few minutes? What is the chance of not being able to focus in the next few minutes as you do meditation. Based on that, you decide whether you want to open eye or close your eye. We are inhaling and exhaling in the normal pace. With the blue light in mind and counting 1 through 21. Settle the mind on the breath. Awareness rests on the breath as it enters and leaves the body. When thoughts arise, simply settle awareness back on the breath. As we pacify agitated thoughts into its own place and free ourselves from all the drowsiness, our mind, the continued consciousness flows consistently as a river and reach and remain in the shamatha, so stable like the ocean beneath the surface. Okay, now we are going to have question and answers if anyone has question.
Okay. So the first question was, can you speak a little bit more about developing compassion toward everyone? And the second one, is there a meaning towards 21 breath? Does that mean anything?
One-to-one breath, what do you mean?
Like 21 breaths to do 21
21 breath.
inhalation?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is it like why is 21?
Uh-huh, okay. Has to be a
Okay.
number. uh,
Okay.
yes, and usually, traditionally we have, some numbers that are recommended. 3, 7, uh, 21, 108. Those are the numbers that, um, that's how they increases. Um, so maybe 7 is too short to experience it. 108 is maybe too long, right? So maybe 21, somewhere in the middle. Um, compassion. Uh, we have the compassion, but it is triggered when we have some objects that trigger the compassion. Um, so you need to put a little bit more efforts because at the beginning they could be a little bit with effort, practice are with effort at the beginning, meditation or anything, even compassion. So when you have effort, you might think that is not genuine, right? um, because it's not natural. You're trying to, you have an aim, you have a goal to activate the compassion, and you're looking for objects maybe to make that happen. So it looks like not genuine, but that's okay. All practice are like that. You put effort, and you sometimes fail, you sometimes are successful, but the more you do that, the more you are able to generate compassions. So you can probably choose at the beginning some objects, right? It could be human being or other animals, pets, or any objects that you don't have very complex, very complicated connections. Um, then you can look at those things. And if you can feel that you feel good, happy when they're happy, and that is compassion already. And if you feel uh, painful, or you're trying to avoid when you see the others are going through suffering, then you have compassion. So sometimes, when I see things on, Discovery Channel, or even on, sometimes nowadays, even on Facebook, um, some of them are really good, I think, to trigger your compassion. So whatever works is a good method for you. Okay.
Rinpoche, we have a question from online.
Okay.
And the question is, could you please explain more about the blue light?
Okay. Blue light, as we learn from the tradition, is this may be very, I cannot tell for 100%, but I have a feeling that this may be um, a method that is taught by the Tibetan Buddhist teachers when it comes to Shamatha meditation. And it's not just, oral teachings, it is also on the important textbooks. The blue light, we understood, is a clear blue light. It's not like a blue surface or that blocks, it's a translucent or transparent blue light. Um, so, of course, it bends almost like an L shape, right? And it connects, this is part of the Shamatha or Sutrayana's very basic teachings taught in Tibetan Buddhism. But later on, when you look at the much later practice, like Vajrayana's visualizations and so on, you still find that the blue as a baseline color. And you'll find other colors as well. So that's what I can say right now for the related with the blue light in meditation.
Hi, Rinpoche. I have a question regarding the compassion. So at the beginning, you mentioned the compassion is you moved by something, like the feeling is moved or something. So what exactly is moved? It's your mind or your heart. So what's the relationship between the mind and the heart? And then later on, you mentioned when we practice meditation is stabilize your mind. So it's independent, your mind. So it's kind of hard to understand the logic here. So what is really moved? Is your mind or your heart or something else? And what are we trying to stabilize when we practice meditation? That's my question. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Very good question. What we are trying to achieve here is a choice. If your mind is moved when you want to move and stay when you want it to stay, then it's okay. Then it's good. We are trying to stabilize our mind so that it doesn't move by external factors or in another way out of our control. We have a choice. When you have choice, It doesn't matter, right? So that's important point. So it's not really about moving or not moving, stable or not stable. It's more about uh, whether uh, mind can decide and direct on its own. Okay, so if you're on the driver's seat, then it's fine. Um, so you intend, and it works that way. Then it's good. But the compassion, when I say compassion, move, that's the feeling. Compassion is feeling, right? So you're moved. Maybe you have some tears, the tears of feeling good and happy. Um, maybe uh, uh, what do you call that? The pores, the hairs are raising, goosebumps, right? Goosebumps. Uh, those are the signs. Those are the signs of moving. So now here you're moved for good thing, for positive quality, which is good. You're not moved for something that can bring harms. Okay.
Rinpoche, another question from online.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a point at which one can have too much compassion?
Mm-hmm. Now, that would be probably like Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. um, it's not a problem because one needs to develop uh, wisdom as well on the path along with the compassion. Um, so the wisdom will guide and wisdom will support uh, the practice of compassion. So it won't be short-lasting compassion. It will be infinite compassion. Because all the sentient beings are infinite and their sufferings are infinite. And time to work for them by the bodhisattvas are infinite. There's no real problem of having too much of compassion. So that's the answer.
Rinpoche, another question from online.
Mm-hmm.
Could you speak more about using the circle and the dot as objects?
Okay. It's not really a ring circle. It's like a plate circle. It's a flat circle. And the goal is to use a very small. At the beginning, you use the bigger ones, but not extremely big that you cannot cover, right? Certain, depending on your distance to the object, you use comfortable size at the beginning, and then you slowly reduce. This could be physical circle out there, or imagination, image of the circle in mind. And then as your meditation become more and more intense, you reduce that size into smaller and smaller and smaller. circle. That's object of meditation. There's so many different objects of meditation. I just give you a few examples. But I think important thing at the beginning, you need these objects to help you to focus on something, so your mind is not distracted. But important is not the object, but how your mind works with the object. Okay? So it really doesn't matter which object. We're talking about the mind working with the object and quality of the mind when it works with the object.
Rinpoche, a question from online.
Okay.
What is wisdom, and how do you develop it?
That's a big question. Ultimately, in Buddhism, the wisdom is the quality of mind. So whether it's really mind or it's a transformed mind, so maybe you don't call it mind and you just call it wisdom. That's debatable. But it is something that is continued. And instead of seeing the way we see things and because the way we see, we have too much of emotions, like a desire and anger and hatred and jealousy and so on, right? They don't, right? They don't have all the negative emotions. They see the things the way they are. And you can also think this way. If the wisdom is the mind, the emptiness, the truth of emptiness is the object of that mind. Although at that level, the subject and object is not really separated in such way as we do. And then the wisdom, that's the first answer. Then wisdom is, again, it has many different functions, as we have many different functions of mind. There's a wisdom that knows things in details and in numbers and details, such as cause and effect of karma, clairvoyance. Or there's a wisdom that knows not the details and quantitative wisdoms, but qualitative wisdoms. But in Buddhism, ultimately they focus on the qualitative wisdom rather than quantitative wisdoms. But quantitative wisdom is also part of the main wisdom. How to develop is another question, I think, right? How to develop? So there is the developed wisdom, and there is the primordial wisdom. Primordial wisdom is not developed. You cannot develop it. If you don't have primordial wisdom, you cannot even have the other wisdom, which is developed by your efforts and practice. Primordial wisdom is what you have. With the efforts, some people call it supreme knowledge. The highest knowledge is something you gain from your effort. And with that gain wisdom, you manifest the primordial wisdom. Okay, next.
Hello, Rinpoche.
Yes.
I have a question about It's relating to when we're practicing shamatha, the different experiences we have, whether it's going well or not so well. How much effort should we put into it when it's not going well, or what kind of effort should we put into it?
If it's not going well for the first time or second time, you should just ignore that fact and then just continue and focus. But if it's bothering a lot, and if it's a bigger problem, then you need to take a break, short break, and do something else. Maybe you can help if you do something with the body. Sometimes there's the energy problems. If you, especially if you don't move and sit a lot, you sit a lot already, and now you are sitting even more by doing shamatha meditation, then maybe it may bothers you. Maybe you cannot focus, or maybe you feel not right. In that case, maybe you need to do more physical movements. That will help. Okay.
Thank you.
Rinpoche, another question from online. If my job is in online customer service, I need to answer questions anytime. Sometimes it does not feel good to be bothered. Can you help me understand how to deal with this?
I'm not the best person to answer that question, I think, but I would think that what's the company policy, or what's the ethics of the company? I think that probably, if you have those things, then that will answer quite a lot. If it's within your responsibility, within your timeline or not. I think those are the guidelines. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. Hope, and I'm quite sure that you have learned something from this teaching, and hope you will try to get some experience, and will bring some benefits in your understanding and meditation. Okay, so thank you everyone. See you soon.